Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. That's right, welcome back. We're gonna be doing fabrication on the E24 LT1. Let's talk about things that happened while you were away. Okay, do you know what this is? Do you know what this was? Fuel pump. This was the E24 fuel pump. And yeah, there's a little bit of corrosion, but yeah, I don't see why I can't just throw this back in. I think this will power the LT1. No? Yeah? This is getting replaced. In fact, I got some pictures. I did all the work already. Fuel pump is reinstalled with a Walbro 450 LPH. With the fuel system, we're gonna end up installing the fuel pump into the in-tank fuel system. It's going to go to a new filter, and it's going to go right to an aftermarket regulator, which will be adjustable. So we're going to be able to adjust the fuel pressure going into the LT1, which has its own high pressure fuel pump, because that too is direct injected. Thanks to some information that I got from a very, very trusted source, I'm learning a lot about the LT1. And I realized that it is a direct injection with a high pressure fuel pump underneath the intake manifold. So we do need to regulate the fuel pressure going into the high pressure fuel pump, but a lot of it is going to be regulated at that pump into the direct injection injectors themselves. So I think the fuel system is just about ready to be addressed. And yeah, let's talk about the other things that we have going on today. This is like a catch-up episode. This Driveshaft by Driveshaft Pro, provided by Garagistic, had a couple of issues, and I was able to fix those issues. One such issue was the center bearing. First, the center bearing is actually offset. It is not exactly even in terms of its installation, so you actually had to, it was incorrect. This is an E24, it is E24, but it's incorrect. So this center bearing actually had to be swapped around. You can actually kind of see that it's longer on this leg than on this leg. And let me show you what that did. So when you order a drive shaft, especially a custom one, you have to be very, very specific. And I thought I was specific in my drawing, but it wasn't. It didn't seem to go through. And as you can see, moving the center bearing over, offset just a tiny bit, was really all that it needed in order to align perfectly with the drive shaft to the Guibo interface is exactly spaced out where I want it, right? Obviously you push it in, but the difference in distance here is exactly perfect, which suggests that the drive line is very much aligned with itself, meaning you're not going to get vibrations at speed. However, the problem that is presented is that the upper part of the drive shaft does have more of a space. So the only way to fix that is to either lower the transmission or increase the location at the center bearing up. That closes the gap up above, and that ensures that the mating faces between the input shaft of the drive shaft and the Guibo are exactly the same. When you tighten all this together, let me explain it. When you tighten all that together, the drive line, the Guibo, is going to be in compression and tension at every single revolution. I've described this a number of times in my previous videos, but you need to make sure that that mating face is perfectly straight and that there's minimal, if not zero, amount of distortion of the Guibo, or else you're going to end up getting a vibration. So you have to be very well aware of that characteristic before you tighten everything up and finish everything off. So what I've decided to do was literally modify, so this is a custom build. These are going to be custom things that we need to do. Modify the center bearing to bring it a little bit higher in the transmission tunnel. Bringing that higher is going to lower the gap up above, and it's going to make this drive line exactly perfect. So everything about that is good. You can see the slip joints right here, right? So this slip joint moves in and out, right? And that's kind of what you want, right? That allows the transmission and the drive line to move with respect to the Guibo and the rear subframe as well. Rear subframe is really in good shape. You can see I don't have it put in, but the centering mechanism is good and the holes line up. So this is just a matter of bolting those 4 bolts together. So the drive shaft is in great shape, and that is a huge part of getting to our first drive. But let's talk about our first start. So here's our fuel system, and you can see we have our pump, our filter right here, and we have our pump here. Now this car had two pumps. It had an in-tank fuel pump, which is a smaller one that I showed you earlier, and then a larger external fuel pump. We're going to be replacing all that with a single Walbro 450 pump in tank. So all this is going to be removed and simplified. We're going to keep the filter in line, and we're going to take the tank output. It's going to go straight through the filter, out the filter, and it will go straight into the engine bay where it'll then get regulated back. So we are in good shape for the fuel system. We need to do some work here. We'll do that as we go throughout this video and next. And then finally, the last thing that I really would like to do in order to get the car started is to work on the oil cooler. This LT1 doesn't absolutely need an oil cooler, but if you're going to be pushing it hard and you'd like to have that margin, it's good to have one. Now, there are a lot of different companies that make oil cooler adapter kits for the Gen 5 LT1 and also the LS series. And in this case, we ended up going with an Earl. You can take a look down below in the description of the part that we ended up using that's going to end up getting installed onto the output right above the oil filter. And that guy's gonna have two AN10 fittings that are gonna go routed up through underneath the engine mount, underneath the bracket, and it's gonna go straight through to an E70 oil cooler. This is an E70 from a, I don't even know what this is from. I know it's E70, I just don't know exactly what year, but this is the oil cooler, as you can see here, and these are the lines. And as you can see, the lines have a flange with an adapter plate, and that plate gets removed, and then we can mount the oil cooler in any orientation that we'd like. Now, we can either cut the lines here and weld bungs on, we can cut them here and weld bungs on, but what I would like to do is just get this mechanically installed, and then we can work on the plumbing later. So now that we're caught up on what we need to do, let's start doing it. So let's take the drive shaft off, let's modify that, and then also we'll gotta verify that the spacing is correct now, and then let's work on the oil cooler. Perfect. Hard to see on the top, but the space on the top compared to the sides is almost identical. So this is exactly straight, exactly where we want it to be. Putting these together and hooking them up should be a no-brainer now. Now let's put this down and give it a quick coat of paint. So now we really just want to give it a nice coat of paint. It's nice, just a couple light coats, that's it. Just to cover up any of the exposed welds, exposed metal. Coats. And the important thing that we need to know is that this center bearing doesn't hold any force. It's just holding a bearing in place that's spinning on its own axis. And the effort here, yes, I understand that it's a custom part now. This center bearing is not off the shelf. It can be replaced with an off-the-shelf part, just the alignment will be just a tiny bit off, and that's all right. But center bearings, at least in a swapped car like this, will not fail. At least not anytime in the near future. So if one does need to be replaced, at least it can be recreated. So now that the drive shaft has been completely understood and set into its place where it needs to be, now it's time to start working on the oil cooler. Now the oil cooler is intended to mount in front of the radiator behind the grill. Remember, we have a condenser as well, and we're also gonna have a transmission cooler in there too. So we have a lot of plumbing going on. The actual oil cooler lines install right here, all right, right above the oil filter, and the lines come up and over, so it's gonna go on this side of the steering column underneath the engine bracket. And the idea is that we bring it all the way around, and we might even go underneath the frame rail, up and around, just like this, and then come right into our oil cooler right here. Let's fit our oil cooler up really quick and show how we are going to install it. So this is our oil cooler from our E70 X5. And the inlet and outlet is right over here, and I have the mating flange and everything like that, and we'll talk about the lines in a little bit, probably in the next video. The idea is that we take this and we put it right here. And yeah, we're gonna have it at a slight downward angle, but the idea is that we take and we weld in brackets onto the headers of this and install it onto the core support flange. And that way we can easily be able to put one bolt on each side and maybe even two on one side to prevent it from rotating. That way this guy's gonna sit nice and flush right here, and both of these lines are gonna come out, snake down, and over. That is the best way to do this. All right, the first bracket on the header has been installed, and the other one needs to go over here where this red mark is. That way both of those guys can line up with the threaded inserts that I had installed here, and it should slide right in. In fact, I said I think I might end up putting another threaded insert here. That way it prevents any type of rotation. So at least if one of the brackets, of the two brackets, has a second hole in it, that prevents the rotation. So when we have this fully installed, and we'll talk about the routing in the next episode, guys, I want to talk about how those hoses are going to end up getting modified and routed around and put into the location onto the oil, right above the oil filter. Now let's talk about the piece that's going to end up getting bolted onto here. We got this from Earl. It's actually a really cool little piece. So this is the Earl's 1126. This is basically an oil diverter bracket that allows you to install your own oil cooler. I had put these AN10 fittings on myself just to see how they would fit in its application. The kit also comes with some hardware in order to plug and install this into the actual engine block. So if we take this unit here and we install it right up in here where it should go, this is what it should look like. Something like that, right? Which is awesome because it basically avoids the steering column, it avoids the exhaust header, and you can see where we're gonna end up routing those AN10 lines in order to meet up with the oil cooler. But all that installation will be in another video coming up in the next week. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. My name is Frank Macaluso from Garageholic. If you like the content, you like seeing what I'm doing here on this E24 LT1 hybrid V8 455 horsepower monster, please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you so much, and I'm out of here, guys. Later.